Thank you very much, folks, for the favor of your visit to this channel. Before launching this channel to the world, please let me introduce myself once again. My name is Sergio Gomez, born in Mexico City in 1969 and Canadian citizen. I'm very excited to have created this channel because I feel that in many ways it will be helpful for those who are dedicated or want to work in the transmission lines industry. During this video A1-2 until video 15 or A1-15, I'll be talking about the objectives of this channel, the history of transmission lines, the evolution of calculation methods, among other topics which are not necessarily technical but rather historical and administrative. If somebody prefers getting directly into technical topics, you can skip over to video A1-16, which deals with the definition of the alignment of a line. But I also invite you to watch these previous videos, since they will give you an overview of the long journey this technology had to go through, its history, as well as the involved disciplines and the design sequence. I hope to have the privilege of your company. In this video, I want to tell you about myself as your host. I think it is necessary for you to know a bit of my story and the enthusiasm, care, and delight with which I gave myself the task of bringing to life this channel so that you have a high quality information content. In the next video, I'll be describing who this channel is oriented to, the objective, the organization, and the services that I offer in my enterprise about transmission lines design training. But first, I'd like to tell you a little about my background, how and where my desire of working in transmission lines came from, the journey that I had to go through, how did I started learning this rewarding discipline, and my experience as transmission lines design engineer, so that before getting with any technical topics, you have an idea of the experience that I have accumulated, experience that I would like to share with you in this channel and in my website, as well as the different social networks. While I was at the National Autonomous University of Mexico, I studied the subject of Power Systems 1 with a teacher who, thanks to his ways of teaching, caught my interest in transmission lines. The name of my teacher in Cuautitlán Campus 4, Mr. Alfonso Rodriguez Contreras, professional engineer, who was a determined person in my future and my life as well. It was the year of 1991. I became so passionately interested in transmission lines that since then I visualized what I wanted for my future, and I set myself the goal of become a transmission line design engineer. But there was a slight problem. I didn't have the faintest idea where to find books on this subject and study. In fact, I didn't even know the name of what I should look for. So I started with my university library, public libraries, magazines, libraries of other universities, but it was useless. In the libraries, they didn't even know what I was talking about. However, when I was driving along those highways and I saw these majestic lines with their imposing silence, I was wondering who and where these projects are designed, why some towers are taller than others, and where are those spheres hanging from the cables, among so many more questions. I remember one day I wanted to visit the Tula pyramids, and there was a big 400 kV line At that time, I didn't know it was a 400 kV. I just knew it was a line. For those who don't know the place of Tula, it is an archaeological site where the Toltec civilization was developed during the pre-Hispanic times in Mexico from century 10 to 16. Anyway, it was in a small store where I pulled over to ask where this line comes from. Bingo! They told me it came from a thermoelectric power plant named Francisco Perez Rios, owned by the Federal Commission of Electricity, CFE, which is the Mexican agency for power supply. So I changed of plans, and I didn't stop until I found the power plant. When I reached it, I told myself, this is where I'm going to start. I don't know how I'm gonna do it, but I must manage to get into here to perform my social services. It was the year of 1992. It took me a few months to insist over and over again to allow me to perform my social service until finally I was given an opportunity to make an application. A few months later, I was finally accepted, but I was assigned to the boilers, but it didn't matter since the objective was getting into. And even so that my goal remained firm, and it was, I want to design transmission lines. At the end of my social service by early 1993, I was able to investigate the CFE office in charge of transmission lines design, where it was located. So I decided to look for the place and get into to carry out my professional practices. Again, I dared to knock the door. I didn't know if they will open to me, but there was only one way to find out, and it was take the risk of being closed. Fortunately, doors opened for me to perform my professional practices, and only then I managed to get the ideal place to learn what I wouldn't learn in no university. I reached the best school, the Department of Transmission Lines Design of the Federal Commission of Electricity. It was the year of 1993. There was no software like nowadays. There was no internet, neither GPS, nor PLS-CAD, at least not in Mexico. AutoCAD was in its early days in Mexico. All designs were handmade. That is, I learned structure spotting by handling the hard acrylic template, and I learned the fundamental concept for the design of any line, and I think today it has been forgotten and we have to bring it back. The parameter calculation or catenary calculation based on the change of state equation. I was assigned to help the engineers in a beautiful and challenging project. It was the Simapan PH hydroelectric plant, the new transmission line, which departed from the Simapan hydroelectric plant under construction in that time. It was a 230 kV line and 80 kilometers through a very mountainous terrain with multiple difficulties. Once I managed to get the right place, and I was looking for, and armed with some information that they gave me to study, I put all my mind and devotion to develop my knowledge in this discipline and write my degree thesis. My university teacher, Alfonso Rodriguez, became my thesis advisor. In fact, I developed a basic language program. It was still basic language in that then to calculate the stringing, sag, and tensions at different temperatures. In fact, in the university, the thesis committee requested me to reconsider the topic because there was no knowledge of any other similar thesis. Without hesitation, I replied, "I'm sure, and I will do it, because after this, I'll work as transmission line design engineer. I don't know where or with whom, but it's a matter of fact that I will achieve it." I got my university degree in 1994, presenting professional exam with my thesis named Simapan PH Red Danube 230 kV transmission line project, which is available in the Central Library of the National Autonomous University of Mexico. And next, I left above here, it's a card, it is a link for those who wish to consult it, with all my pleasure, but it's in the Spanish language. Objective accomplished. Here is where I started my adventure in this industry, starting in the construction of lines in different regions and for different companies, starting as field engineer, junior engineer to senior, inclusive for a while as engineering manager, and expanding my knowledge to design of underground lines and SF6 gas insulator switchgears, GIS. Each project was like a child. They were so similar, but so different at once, each of them with their own needs, and had to be treated with the same discipline rules or with the same basic design criteria for their good growth or for their successful in-service switching. It was also in 1995 or 1996 when I heard about the existence of a software called PLSCAD. I was immediately attracted by such a technology, but it was not until 1997 when, for the first time, I had the opportunity to learn it. Years passed by and many projects from 115 to 400 kVs in which I developed the detail engineering as structure supporting with acrylic template and eventually with PLSCAD, details of connections to substations, third-party crossings engineering, phase transpositions, electrical distances and hardware assemblies for structures, grounding systems, fiber optic engineering, damping, spacers positioning for bundle conductors and interface spacers, structure list, bill of materials, sag and tension calculations, underground cable engineering and pulling tensions, evaluation of SF6 modules, preparation of pre-engineering for bids, innumerable site visits and technical meetings with the final client and vendors, construction troubleshooting on site, support to construction staff, preparation of as-built engineering packages, visits to materials manufacturing facilities with several suppliers in Mexico, Germany, Japan, US, and Canada, to technically evaluate and approve the offered materials, scope of work and specifications writing, among many more activities. It was even thanks to transmission lines that I built up a family. In 2004, during the execution of a very challenging project, I met the woman who nowadays is my wife. Shortly after, our children arrived, who at their very own age, they know where a transmission line is. Design criteria and specifications to design transmission lines, there are many. But in the projects where I have worked, in addition of developing the design criteria based on the applicable specifications, I had a design philosophy which exceeds any specification, and that is public safety. I believe this is a responsibility that goes beyond any code or specification, a responsibility that goes beyond the written and is based on professional ethics, because among that public, my family could be there. I'm convinced that the design of transmission lines is not limited to meeting the delivery dates of the documentation and keeping budgets within the calculated. It is also about having a high responsibility with the communities where our projects are analyzed, designed, constructed, and operated. At the time when I was a CFE trainee, I received a lot of support and training from the engineers who I consider my teachers as well. I received patience, always a smile. Thanks to this gesture, during my different jobs and projects, I've always liked to welcome new values, the new generations who in the future will take the helm of this industry. I realized that we needed not something, but a lot of training. So on different occasions, I developed small training sessions for my coworkers. When I develop a training session, my goal is to transmit a new knowledge to the audience, help them to discover themselves, to develop their great potential through new and better techniques of engineering analysis. Make them to see that when they are assigned a difficult task that they have never done, they see it as a great opportunity rather than an excuse to say, I have never done it and I don't know how to do it. Appreciate the great adventure of facing the unknown. That's what I call influencing on people, benefiting others and benefiting humanity. I have taught both transmission lines theory training, PLS-CAD, PLS-POL, AutoCAD, ethical responsibility, document writing, scope of work, construction, specifications, among other topics, including electrical power talks in elementary schools addressed to children to develop awareness from their early childhood about the importance of taking care of electrical energy. Today, I continue with my career in Canada, a country that, like many others, has enormous energy needs. A nation where the design requirements are very different from those which I applied in Mexico due to the extreme weather conditions. But at once, a great school, because thanks to those extreme conditions and the energy necessities of this country, it gave me the opportunity to expand my technical knowledge, usage of PLS-CAD and its different softwares, as well as the good administration in the information of a project. I really hope, and it is the purpose of the subsequent videos, enjoy and benefit from the contents that I'll be developing. Trust me, with my best home runs for those who have already several turns of bats in the major leagues. As for those students who surely are many around the world who are interested in this industry in search of an opportunity, and despite we have tools such as internet and YouTube, there's not much information about it, or it's difficult to find it, and the world needs urgently engineers and technicians highly trained to face the global needs in energy matters. Dear friends, I thank you for your time to watch this video, your interest, but above all, your patience to listen to me. I think it was important to let you know a bit about my story, so you have an idea of my development in this industry, which I set as my goal since my student days. An industry that, in addition of giving me the satisfaction of having contributed to the development of the communities where I have designed lines, has given me the opportunity to walk from jungles, mountains, deserts, frozen regions, urban areas, to inclusively build a family. Don't you think I have too much to thank to the transmission lines industry? I'll see you in the next video. Thank you very much, and I hope to continue having your visit, your subscription, likes, and comments. Transmission Lines Engineering TV, training to power the world.